attendees, all our members. This is Daniel from the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And today we are beginning the first episode of our web series called Election Chats, Get the Facts. So today we have Mr. Tony Gonzales. He's running for Congress, Texas's 23rd district. And we're going to let him tell us a little bit about himself, This is a really informal conversation. So we're just trying to get to know you. And so yeah, can you tell us about yourself, background, hobbies, and the reason you decided to run for Congress?
Yeah, of course. So Tony Gonzales, I live in San Antonio, Texas, and that's where I'm raising my family. For me, life has never been easy. It's always been, I like to call it the scenic route. And, at 2 months old, my father abandoned us. At 6 years old, I remember being with my mother in a battered women's shelter. She had remarried and it was an abusive relationship. And I went to go live with my grandparents after that. So my grandparents raised me for the most part. And a big part of the man I am today is because of that. I've lived on my own since I was 15 years old. I worked three jobs as I made my way through high school. I'm a half credit away from graduating. And my grandfather, who was essentially my father, passes away. And I kind of go on this spiral. And I praise God that he pulled me out of that and he set me on my journey. So my father was in the Army. My grandfather was in the Army. I always thought I was going to join the Army. I always knew I was going to serve. So I go to the Army recruiter and he goes, well, I need you to get a GED. And I go, well, I've worked so hard. If I wanted to get a GED, I would have done that 3 years ago. A high school diploma was very important to me. So I kind of go home defeated. And my cousin, who was in the Navy, he goes, you should think about joining the Navy. And I was like, dude, I don't even know how to swim. Like, why would I do that? I don't like sailors. I don't like the water. And he goes, you can do something completely different. So I go to the Navy recruiter and he goes, boy, do we got a deal for you. One, we'll teach you how to swim in boot camp. And two, we have a program where you could get your high school diploma while you're in service. So that's why I go sold. So I got my high school diploma in the Navy, my associates, my bachelor's, my master's, and now I'm finishing up my PhD. So why am I running? I'm running because I love America. I believe in the American dream, and I am fighting for the American dream.
Yeah, so that's a great story, good background. So yeah, we here at the El Paso Hispanic Chamber, we support veteran-owned businesses. So on behalf of everybody here, we just want to thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so how's campaigning during the pandemic been going for you guys? This is your first campaign, I assume, right?
It is. And my background is I'm a cryptologist, so I'm a cyber data kind of information guy. And I've always learned to be innovative, like you have to be in that craft. So for the pandemic for us is we've tried to be innovative, but also not get away from the fundamentals, which is at the end of the day, reaching people and igniting people, give them a reason why they should vote for you instead of why they shouldn't vote for the other person. So for me, like my message from day one, it's an economic message. It's one of free enterprise and limited government. It's one of no matter the color of your skin, no matter what church you go to, no matter your sexual orientation, this is America. And in America, anything is possible. So you talked about veteran-owned businesses, but really we've been pushing for all small business owners. I think that's what makes America so special is you can go and you can stake a claim in whatever niche industry you feel is your calling and better yourself and your family.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, so we advocate for small businesses here in El Paso. We also put an emphasis on women-owned businesses, veteran-owned and Hispanic or minority owned. So that's really good to hear. So yeah, transition into like some small business topics. If elected, what will you do to foster growth and prosperity for small businesses and District 23?
Yeah, it's a great question. I served on Capitol Hill. I worked for Senator Marco Rubio for a bit of time. And I got to see firsthand how legislation can positively impact a community or negatively impact a community. And oftentimes the folks in DC, they don't understand exactly what they're doing. They go up there and they go, I want to pass bills. Like I'm up there to pass these fancy bills to get my name on it. But a lot of times it's not the bill you pass, it's the bill that you prevent from passing that has an everlasting impact. So for me, it's about ensuring, that we aren't over-regulated. I think that's step one is, especially for a small business owner. And I'll give you an example. So I'm on the Hill. I have my portfolio was defense and national security. And everybody wanted to pass a cyber bill, right? Sexy topic, cutting edge. Some of these members are 105 years old, so they want to be able to be like, I understand what's happening. The reality is most didn't understand the second and third order effects, specifically to small business owners. And I'll drill down a little bit more. They wanted to create a CIO, an information a chief information officer, right? Someone to protect your data, which is great idea, absolutely needed. But for a small business owner, when you're the owner, when you're the accountant, when you're the janitor, when you're everything, and to force companies to add certain pieces, that's where it becomes difficult, almost impossible to survive, if you will. So I look at it and I go, regulation. We got to make sure that the regulations make sense and they don't hurt small businesses from growing. Another one is taxes. I mean, it's as simple as this. It's as simple as putting more money, your money, back into the family and into the individual pocket. Like, who best knows how to spend that money than you? So that's what our campaign's been about. And I think that is some examples of what can help small business owners.
It's pretty interesting. What kind of regulations are in place right now in Congress that you would, that you're kind of against, that kind of harm small businesses? Can you think of any that we need to change?
Yeah, it varies. It varies from industry to industry. Let's say you're bidding for a contract for a government contract, right? And oftentimes these contracts are written in a manner in which only a select few people have access to them. So, I'll go back to my examples. I try to share what I know and not claim to be the expert of X, Y, or Z. So I'm on the Hill, and you had these large lobbyist companies coming, that were advocating for their clients, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I understand that. But oftentimes the small business owner, they don't have anyone to advocate on their behalf. So I think it's great, chambers like yours in like the Hispanic Chamber there in El Paso and elsewhere are an organization that can kind of come together and help advocate for these businesses. And oftentimes it's about creating a level playing field. If there is a level playing field, small business owners feel as if they can be competitive. Look, I can give you the best price. I'll work harder for you than any other client, and those type of things. But there's these environments that are unfair playing fields. So that's part of it. I'll give you another example in the oil and gas industry. I was recently out in West Texas, and a lot of folks, you've got a lot of independent workers, and they're just crushed by these levels of regulation, this red tape that has to go through. And I think it's important. We absolutely need to have some balance, and we need to have some regulations in place, but it needs to be reasonable. Like my platform is, I'm a pragmatic, representative. I want to be able to have sensible legislation, not one that overstretches one way or another. I think that's key to ensuring we have more small businesses?
It's a great answer. This is a question that I think is pretty interesting. The 23rd district in Texas is one of the largest in the country. It covers, a portion of El Paso County all the way to, San Antonio. So how would you prioritize and address the concerns of small businesses in this area? When you have the greater San Antonio area and then all the, the in between, how would you prioritize that?
Yeah, so District 23, I mean, and it's massive, larger than 30 states, 29 counties, 2 time zones. And the biggest thing is people are different. I mean, the people of San Antonio are different than El Paso. And El Paso is different than Eagle Pass and Del Rio, those communities along the border. They're just different. There's different priorities. There's different industries, in a lot of times in your more urban areas, you'll have more technical based and a lot more smaller businesses. In your rural communities, you may completely rely on oil and gas out in West Texas in some form or fashion, or ranchers and farmers. So it's very diverse. So the big key to that, to being successful, is one, you have to be seen. Like you have to make your way around the district over and over and over again, getting in front of folks and having these conversations. And what we've tried to do is utilize technology like webinars, like Zooms, but also do in-persons as well. Do all of the above in order to get that message out. The other thing I want to mention is this district is over 70% Hispanic. And one, I'm Mexican American. I speak Spanish fluently. I'm Catholic. My wife, Angel, and I, we have 6 children. So for me, this district, it isn't just a district I'm running in. It is who I am. It is where I was raised. And I think it's important for us to have more Hispanic leaders. There's one word. If I could capture, what I'm trying to create or trying to do, it's opportunity, right? I'm trying to bring opportunities for this district. But there's a word in Spanish that highlights everything I'm about. And it's called ganas. It's called having the will, the desire to go out there and stake your claim. And I think that's what's missing in America. Look, and I'm going to generalize, but I would argue most Americans, they don't want to receive checks in the mail. What they want to do is they want to work hard, dignity of work. They want to work hard. They want to provide for themselves and their family and leave a better life for the next generation than for them. And a lot of it is having the ganas to go out and do it.
Yeah, we're familiar with that word here in El Paso, so that's pretty cool. That's a good way to put it. But speaking about the checks, people receiving checks right now, the corona. I think one of the most important topics for businesses and what they're struggling with right now is the pandemic, and throughout the country it's devastated millions of small businesses. If elected, what would you do to help those negatively affected by the crisis?
Sure. So everybody has been impacted by the current environment, everybody. And, most people are just trying to survive themselves, their families, their businesses. They're just trying to survive and make it through. I think these PPP loans offered some relief to some folks, but that was a short-term kind of bridge. The long-term solution is really getting back to work, getting back to school, getting back to church safely. And I think there's a way for us to do that. There's a way for us. We're Americans. We're innovative. We find ways. If I have 2 restaurants, and let's say they both serve the same quality of tacos, right? So that's even playing field. And I go and I feel as if one is clean and I feel safe and it's an environment that makes me feel as if I'm not harming myself or others, and the other is different. Well, guess which restaurant I'm going to go to? So I think in a lot of ways, government needs to get out of the way and allow businesses to thrive. All these regulations that are happening, they're detrimental. And what worries me is these businesses are going to close their doors that they've worked their entire lives for. and they're not going to reopen it. The other thing that I would argue is most small businesses, they don't have employees. These are like family members, you know, so it's not like, oh, I can just let off employee number 6 and it won't be a big deal. It's like, no, Maria, I went to her wedding, you know, like it's family. So I think we have to do a better job of doing that. And it starts by having sensible members. You know, we're really dug in, and I'll take another question. I'm almost done. We're really dug in politically. There's all this animosity towards one another, and I get it, and I understand it. But we really need to get back to a point that goes, we have more in common than we don't. We are Americans, and we should be fighting for the American dream, regardless of what party you belong to. Let's look past that, and let's get back to just solving things and helping people.
That's a great answer. Okay, so this will be the last question about, you know, small businesses, and this one relates mostly to the district, to District 23. I know here in El Paso, there's many local businesses that rely on, you know, consumers from Mexico, from south of the border. I'm sure in Del Rio and San Antonio and Eagle Pass. So what would you do to, you know, kind of enhance that or keep it going? You know, I don't know what your thoughts are on the, you know, the current immigration system, and, you know, if they're, you know, with immigration reform being a pretty hot topic, like how would you balance that and also allow for businesses to continue to receive that commerce from you know, the southern border yeah.
Yes, so Texas and Mexico have a unique bond that go well beyond that border. And anybody that lives in this area, works in this area, does business in this area, understand that. And what has happened is it's become like this racial divide. It has nothing to do with race. I think what is important is for us to view our neighbors positively. I think it's good. I think we need to have better relations with Mexico. I think, you know, especially those border communities, they rely on that commerce. You know, they rely on that foot traffic to come over and buy those goods and those services. I think that strengthens Texas, that strengthens America, and that certainly strengthens part of our district. Now, what I've done is I've gone, look, you cannot have the American dream without security. We need security. That is important. But I think we can do that. Why does it have to be one or the other? Why does it have to be either all open borders or completely shut down the border? That doesn't make sense to me. What makes sense to me is to have security and have a dozen lanes open where you go, I know exactly who's coming into our country. And oh, by the way, there shouldn't be 9-hour wait times in order to come in here and spend your earned dollars in our communities. Like what I've tried to do is to go, you know, not this side or the other, and go, what is best for this district? What is best for our constituents? And honestly, you have to be able to relate is what it boils down to. Being of Mexican descent, you know, my grandparents, I remember going to Monterrey for our summers and spending time there. And you have to be able to understand that the stronger Mexico is, the stronger Texas is. We're one. And instead of having this all or nothing, I also would argue we don't believe in open borders. I mean, that's crazy. That's chaotic. That doesn't strengthen our country. So there needs to be a balance. And I go back to having sensible solutions to it and impacting things. It's all about relationships, and it's about bringing relationships to it. So I think that's a big part of it.
That's a great answer. So right now we're going to allocate some time to take some questions from the audience, from people watching. So I think we already have one. If to people viewing this, you can just go down to the Q&A box and ask a couple of questions. Okay, so let me ask you one. This was sent a couple minutes ago. How would you address the high unemployment rate of the population? So I guess in your district, the high unemployment rate in the United States, I guess. How would you address that?
Yeah, so here's an interesting statistic. So District 23, I mean, everybody's been hurt and everybody's been impacted, but District 23 actually has a lower unemployment rate than other districts in the state. And that really hit me, like, why? And it boils down to, this is my thought process on it, is Hispanics, they're not accustomed to being on unemployment. They don't take pride in that. That is not something that they seek out. Oftentimes, they'd rather work 2 or 3 jobs before seeking those services. So I get back to bringing opportunities. If you bring opportunities to it, that's ultimately how you solve things. You bring opportunities and you let folks work again, get back to work on it. The solution of just throwing money at it will never work. I go back to dignity of work. There's something about going out, working in your business or in general, and coming home and knowing that you provided for your family. It's much different than a check coming in the mail for you to sit down and watch Netflix all day. I mean, it's just a different fabric that comes to it. So what worries me is we lose that fabric of hard work, dignity of work. So I think that's a key. And I want to go back to your previous question real quick before we take the next one. Immigration reform is very key. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody. The reality is people should not be waiting years upon years to enter this country legally, right? Also, if people want to come to work, they should have the opportunity to work. Who's building our homes? Who's in who's doing our agriculture? Who's in our restaurants? This is the reality of the situation. So what I've tried to do is highlight legal immigration. Legal. I think everybody shouldn't be a partisan issue. Or do you support legal immigration? I would argue most people say yes. That benefits everybody. That benefits the employers. That benefits others. So I think, I'd love for us to get back to a point when I'm in Congress where we can address these tough topics that honestly nobody wants to highlight, is to go, I am for legal immigration. How do we expand some of these work programs?
Yeah, and I think a big thing with that is, making sure everything's safe and back to normal. And one of our questions, I feel like I can tie it in together. Someone asked, you mentioned that you have 6 children. Do you feel that El Paso, or I guess the district in general, is ready to safely reopen their schools for our children? And I guess you could apply that to businesses too. Do you think people are ready to go back to work? Do you think it's safe? And will you, if schools reopen, would you be sending your kids to school?
Yeah. So my children, they go to public school. We've gone to all different types of schools. I spent 20 years in the military. They went to public school at some point, private school, charter school, religious schools, home schools. Like, we've done it all. But right now, they happen to go to public school. And for us, look, I don't want to get sick. I don't want any of my loved ones to get sick. I don't want any of my neighbors to get sick. I don't wish that on anyone. At the same time, I know we need to get back to normal, right? We have to. Everything is at stake. So we got a questionnaire, would you like to distance learn? Would you like to do distance learning? Would you like to do in person? And we chose to do in person. Now, it was like a tally, they did a survey. The district that I'm in ended up doing distance learning. And that's how our children operate now. But we're ready, we're ready to go back to school. I'm going to highlight technology and just because I talked about innovation earlier. So in San Antonio, there's a company, Zenex, that has equipment that basically sterilizes a room. It's a little robot you bring in, you leave for a minute, and it uses ultraviolet rays to sterilize the room and make sure it's safe. That makes sense to me. Like, look, can everybody afford these robots? No, of course not. But what I'm getting at is we need to find solutions that make sense and get back to school, get back to work, get back to church, get back to normal as soon as we can. And I think there's a way to do that. Hunkering down in your basement isn't going to work. Like, we need to get back to normal.
It's a great answer. So we have about 5 more minutes. We'll ask some final questions, more general, and some closing remarks. So the first one would be, what are 3 main priorities and initiatives you hope to achieve in Congress?
The number one priority is just to bring our country back together. I served 20 years in the military, and I grew up in an environment where everybody helped everybody. You didn't care about the color of their skin. You didn't care about what city they were from, who they prayed to, who they went to bed with. Like, you didn't. What you focused on was the mission and getting things done. And our country isn't doing that anymore. Congress isn't doing that anymore. My opponent isn't highlighting that. Everybody wants to highlight this division and grow on that. I get it, because it's easy. It's easy to get up there in front of people and go, the reason why X, Y, or Z is the other guy. Instead of going, wait a second here. We need to get back to coming together, sitting down with people that think exact opposite of you and having that discussion and going, wait a second, we're not going to agree on, I'm 100% pro-life. I'm not going to agree with somebody who supports abortion ever. And they're probably not going to agree with me. But can we agree on education? Can we agree on investing in small businesses, in workforce development? That workforce development, adding some resources there helps the community in general? Yes. So I think what's happening is that. So that's one. Some other topics is, look, I'm a veteran, and I'm a combat veteran. I spent 18 years at war, and there's a lot of veterans that deal with a lot of issues, that they didn't deploy one time, twice. They deployed 7 or 8 times. So we got to be able to highlight and go, veterans aren't victims. They don't want to be seen as victims, but they also need help. They need resources. And it starts with opportunities and small business job opportunities. So that's why I love organizations just like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that goes out there and looks for ways to help women, to help veterans, to help minorities, to help just guide them to the places they need. So yeah, absolutely.
That's great answer. Very interesting. Okay, so I think you already touched on this. What direction do you want to see the country headed? You just want more stop being so polarized and have everybody come together. Where would you like to see the country in 4 years? Pretty much the same, would you say? So, okay, ultimately, why should the constituents of Texas 23 vote for you?
Yeah, because I'm from this district. I believe in this district, and I will always fight for this district. I'm not running to support a president. I'm not running to support a Speaker of the House. I am running to support the constituents of District 23. I've never been in politics before. I've served my country since I was 18 years old. I will always serve my country. It's hard to do what's right, but I think we need more men and women on Capitol Hill that are willing to do that. And I believe in this district. I love this district. As I've made my way around it, time and time again, it is very different. I mean, the people are very different, but it's very exciting. The enchiladas in El Paso are different than the enchiladas in San Antonio. I mean, it's different, but it's also wonderful. It's beautiful. It's what makes America so special. And I look forward to earning your support and to being your congressman in November. I'm going to give our website, TonyGonzalesForCongress.com. Please go out there, learn more about us. Follow us on Facebook, Tony Gonzales for Congress. Follow us on Twitter at Tony for Texas. And I'm going to give you my cell phone number. This isn't the campaign line. This is my cell phone number, 210-882-1010. 0962. I am running to represent you, not special interest groups, not political entities. I'm running to represent you. Please reach out.
Cool. So Mr. Gonzalez, on behalf of our CEO, she couldn't be here right now, but she wants to thank you so much for your time. And we know you're very busy on the campaign, and dedicating a couple, 30 minutes for the El Paso Hispanic Chamber, we really appreciate it. And I think that's it. We want to wish the best of luck to you the rest of the way.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you again for the opportunity. I appreciate everything you're doing. Please let me know if I can ever be of any help. And God bless. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks.